All right, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a hump day edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. Do business with someone you know. Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com. All right, everybody. Appreciate y'all very, very much for being here. Got it there in the description of today's episode. Auburn's going to be without its starting center. We learned that. And it's it's even more complex than that. So Auburn went into this season thinking Nick Brams was going to be their starting center. Now, Nick Brams had been a fifth-year player. He started 33 career games, was a long-time veteran starter on the Auburn offensive line. He had had a knee injury, missed the bowl game last year because he had surgery, and opted to return for a sixth season. And just before the start of this season, I mean like during fall camp, like maybe a week or two before the start of the season, decided he was going to medically retire, that his body couldn't hold up anymore. And so Tate Johnson slid in to that starter role. Tate Johnson did not play in a game a year ago, despite being a third-year player. So he slides in to become Auburn's starting center. Well, Tate Johnson suffered I believe an elbow injury against Missouri, and he's going to have surgery. He's out at least 6 to 8 weeks, could be season-ending, so will not play this weekend, which means Auburn's third center now will be starting against LSU, and boy, that is a major advantage for LSU's defensive front when you have an offense that's already struggling, and now you're going to take out the center who makes up half of the battery, calls protections and a lot of that sort of stuff. Huge advantage for LSU's defensive front. I think it makes it just even more difficult for Auburn to try to move the ball on Saturday against LSU. Now I'll be interested to see the LSU offense, right? Finding its stride a little bit, improving. I think you've solidified your starting five on the offensive line, and you're probably going into this game without Armani Goodwin. That's not confirmed, but Brian Kelly's on the SC teleconference this morning at 10 a.m. So we should know more then. But boy, you gotta like LSU more and more in this ball game. So the real question, I think, is as bad as Auburn has been offensively, can they move the ball against the LSU defense? And I don't think they can, because the LSU defense has been very good. And the flip side of it's also true. If you are LSU, can you protect the football? Can you go on the road and protect the football? And your line's 8.5. Can you not give them easy scores? We've seen LSU do that, man. You've muffed punts, you've kicked balls out of bounds, you've had field goals blocked. You give up a long return on a kickoff. I mean, you got to make sure that they don't have the explosive play in the kicking game or the quick change with a turnover. So if LSU does that, if they're able to go play a clean game at Auburn, they should win this game. I think they will. But LSU's big advantage in that defensive front seven got an even bigger boost now with Auburn starting center Tate Johnson going to miss the game. All right, let's say some good mornings here. You know the drill, fire away, whatever you got. You can ask anything about anything. If you're on YouTube, please smash that like button and subscribe up to the channel if you haven't done so yet. Facebook, please like the page, share the post. We appreciate y'all for being there. All right, good morning, John Bro. Looking forward to seeing Joe Fouché make his Tiger debut. Me too. Look, that's another thing, John, that's just fortuitous, right? I mean, it sucks that Major Burns gets hurt, but on the week Major Burns gets hurt, you're getting Joe Fouché back. That's a guy that's, played in 44 career games with 34 career starts and has played Auburn 4 times. He's played at Jordan-Hare twice. And by the way, the safety he'll be next to is Greg Brooks, who was his teammate at Arkansas. So that's a pretty seamless transition, should be anyway. Jerry DeLucky, good morning. Bubba Tatum, good morning from a soggy and wind-whipped West Palm. The storm needs to bugger off. Hey, Bubba, hoping for the best for all y'all down there, man. I saw that Ian kind of grew to, was trying to get toward Cat 5. That's a big storm, man. I hope, hope everybody's safe and, you know, we've all been through it, so prayers to everybody down there that everybody's safe. Kelly Gross, Earl Lytle, good morning. 90% rain, LSU going to be sloppy. I'll take the 9 points. You know, Earl, I'm going to be curious to see how that goes because it kind of looks like when I looked at some of the forecasts that by Saturday night, a lot of that rain might be out of there. There's 90% chance of rain during the day for sure, but by the time they play that game at night, I'm curious if, depending on how quickly that storm is moving, if it might get out of there. Let's hope so. Michael Richard, good morning. Randy Dabdoob going with the Mike D center percentage. Yes, so for those that don't know, Mike D shared this old betting angle that he and Buddy D had forever and ever, which was teams that lose their starting center fail to cover 82% of the time the week they lose their starting center. So that would be Auburn this week. TK Brown, good morning. Ben Dupuy, Tennessee kickoff at 11 a.m. is better for me in Europe. I'd much rather stay up until 1 a.m. to watch a better atmosphere than have to watch the travesty that's morning games at Tiger Stadium. You know, Ben, we spoke a lot about it yesterday. Kind of everybody said their piece. There's nothing you can do about it now. Peter Burns of the SC Network had a good point yesterday where he said, when ESPN has the entire contract, which will be in a couple of years, you'll probably avoid things like this because they can work together with all their partners to make sure that it works out for the best. I mean, you'll still have a 2:30 slot, you'll still have 11 a.m. slots, and you'll still have night kickoffs. But when ESPN has all of the broadcasts, they can. You're not beholden to CBS. On the week where they get the first 2 picks, leaving everyone in a situation like they just did. So, Hunter Eilers, good morning. Todd Harris, Jeff McKithen, good morning. Do we have the announcers for the game? Yeah, it's Joe Tessitore, Greg McElroy, and Katie George again. Deborah Cowart, Brian Broom. That's the 3rd game they've had LSU, that crew. Let's see. I'm sorry, the first comment I can't see. It just I see the bottom of it that says UF can kick rocks. I'm wondering if that's about Florida, because I have a pinned comment. I'm wondering if that's about Florida moving their game. Yeah, if you also have Florida move their game with Eastern Washington to Sunday. The thing that basically in 2016 LSU, one of the options LSU gave Florida back then was, hey, let's play it on Sunday. We'll fly in and fly out the day of the game. Oh, there's no hotels, no worries. We'll fly in and fly out the day of the game. You don't want to take away first responders? No worries. We'll play in front of no crowd. How about we go to a neutral site? You come to Baton Rouge. We go to New Orleans. Go to Jacksonville. Tried every option, and they were just no. If it can't be played in Gainesville, full crowd, at the time we said that we're not playing it. And now, of course, because it's Eastern Washington, I'll move to Sunday. But whatever. Rapping batches, Matt Lusto, Larry Garner, Jesse Post, Joey Vincent, Jason H. Good morning, Joseph Mailer. Good morning. New guy in the chat. Good morning. Appreciate it. Joseph, welcome aboard, man. Thanks for being there. If you haven't done so yet, man, smash the like button, subscribe up to the channel. We do this every morning, literally every morning, weekends, holidays, etc. This is episode 1649, so that's 1,649 consecutive days we have done this show. I've never missed. So, welcome. Glad to have you here. Damon Gilmore, Trivia Carter, Wendell Norman, Tommy Blanco, Marcus Washington, what's good? Lord Nixon, good morning. Meridoc Baraki, morning, Matt. We're finally getting Russ back today. I texted him yesterday and he never replied, man. So Russ came on before the Florida State game, and he was traveling internationally. He was in Cabo, then what's when he came on for the Florida State game, but then he was in Italy and then London. So he was in Europe, but he's supposed to be back. He lives in Arizona. He's supposed to be back last week, and I texted him twice and haven't heard back. So I didn't put it on the on the promo for the show today because I haven't heard back, and I don't know, man. I hope so, but I don't know. Is it Friday yet? Brad David, can you jog my memory? What happened with the Hurricane game that moved? The Florida LSU game, was there a controversy? Yeah, Brad. So, like, here's what happened. Early in the week, you knew Hurricane Matthew was coming, and so LSU started to talk to Florida about contingencies to get the game played. And Florida's AD, Jeremy Foley, was adamant. I mean, this is secondhand, but I talked to someone who was on the conference call between LSU, Florida, and the Southeastern Conference office. And Jeremy Foley was adamant that if the game wasn't played in Gainesville, full house, at its scheduled time, they weren't going to play the game. So LSU offered everything. LSU offered to play on Saturday morning. They offered to play on Sunday. They offered to play on Monday. They offered to fly in the day of the game and fly out so they didn't take hotels. They offered to go to a neutral site. They offered Baton Rouge. LSU offered everything to try to get that game played when it was scheduled, on that weekend. And Florida was adamant that it was just no. And so ultimately, as the week went along, they came to the decision to postpone or cancel the game. Now, ultimately, you have TV partners and contracts and all sorts of stuff. And so because they couldn't come to an agreement, it was pretty, brilliant by Herb Vincent, who was at the time obviously with the league office, who found somewhere buried deep in the rule book that in order to play in the SEC championship game, you have to play 8 conference games. And Florida that year was in the mix for the SEC East championship to go to Atlanta. And so that was the impetus to get Florida to the table to reschedule the game. Florida was saying, hey, look, why don't we just reschedule the game for November, whatever the date was, November the 19th, because both had non-conference opponents. Well, LSU said, wait a minute, why should we give up our home game? We've tried to be a good partner here and reschedule this thing. Why should we give up a home game because you're ornery and won't work with us? And from the perspective of LSU, you realize you lost a home game against Arizona State in 2005. You played Tennessee on a Monday night in 2005. You moved to kickoff time to 10 a.m. in 2008 when Gustav was coming. Look, in 2015, it sucks, but in 2015, South Carolina had flooding in Columbia. They played a home game in Baton Rouge. Why? Because you play the game. You've got to find a way logistically, and there are situations that suck, but LSU's been on the wrong end of that before, and sometimes it happens, as unfortunate as it is, but Florida was being ornery and awful and didn't want to do it, and so just move your game. Cancel your game. And remember in 2016, Baton Rouge had gone through the Great Flood of 2016, and so this was at a time where the city could ill afford to give up the economic impact of a home football game. So that's why Oliva stood his ground. I'll tell you, there were a lot of business owners in Baton Rouge who banded together and met with the mayor and with Joe Oliva and were like, if you take this football game out of Baton Rouge, there will be lawsuits and there will be hell. They were going to raise a giant stink. So anyway, ultimately, the way that the olive branch was extended was her saying to Florida, hey, if you want to play in this championship game, you got to play this game. And LSU was like, we're not giving up our home game. And so Florida conceded, and they came to Baton Rouge on the date that LSU was going to play South Alabama. So LSU canceled the South Alabama game and played Florida that weekend instead. And the reason it's a big stink, Brad, is because now Florida is doing exactly what LSU asked them to do 6 years ago, which is, hey, let's make the game happen this weekend. Somehow, some way. Funny how they're able to do it now that it's Eastern Washington. Anyway, Samuel Sith, Matt, is if Saints O can't get on track against the doo-doo Vikings defense, season go downhill fast. Samuel, I agree with you, man. These next 2 weeks are critical. Not just against the Vikings, but next week at home against Seattle. Because, man, if you fall to 1-4, I don't know how you dig out of that hole with what you have ahead. Bengals, short week for Thursday night on the road against Arizona, who I know isn't great, but Thursday night football on the road sucks. Raiders, Ravens, at Steelers. It's the grind is coming. the grind of the schedule is coming. And you had to put yourself ahead of the curve before the grind. And boy, you got to go find a way to get this game on Sunday. Let's see. Mark Allen, what's a stat about a team that loses their center? Yeah, that's a Mike D stat. It's a team that loses their starting center fails to cover something like 80% of the time the week they lose their starting center. Lucy B, good morning. Do you think House is ready to be a head coach next year? Probably depends on the job. I'd love to see him stick around a few more years, but make no mistake, that's why Matt House is here. He's here because he wants to be a head coach, and his path to being a college head coach is better as a major college DC than as an NFL linebackers coach. Donovan Peterson, prayers for Florida, indeed, for the whole state. Tommy Blanco, prediction for the Pelicans season. I'll need to look at it a little deeper, Tommy, but I think that they can push to be a top 4, but I think realistically, the 6th seed in the West is probably more realistic for this team. This feels like a 9-7 game. I hope not. Michael Tolliver, morning, Matt. Seems like if LSU plays clean, this could be a blowout, maybe. Maybe. Look, we've seen now Auburn get off to pretty fast starts, but then really be sluggish in the second half. The Auburn game against Penn State, that was a game in the first half. Let's see. It was 14-6 at halftime. It was a 1-score game. It was an 8-point game at half. And then Penn State put up 17 in the third and 10 in the fourth and ran away from them. So, and LSU has been a better second half team as well. So I think if you're LSU, the key is, just don't get behind early and have to play catch up. Play them straight up or get ahead and then run away from them in the second half, I think is probably the key. All right, y'all. Facebook, please like the page, share the post. YouTube, smash that like button. We appreciate y'all for being there. As always, shout out to Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, brortho.com if you need an orthopedist. Brock, they're the best, of course. Hudco Roofing, love to give you a free, no obligation roofing inspection. It's a reminder that if Ida hit your area last year, you may have roof damage, you don't know it. You have 2 years from the storm to file a claim. So if you did not file an Ida claim last year, you can still give us a shout at Hudco, and we can help you file. We'll give you an inspection. If you have damage, we'll help you file a claim. HudcoRoofing.com. HudcoRoofing.com. Todd Harris seems there's so little drama in the locker room this year. So nice to have no drama. Feels like a pretty tight team. It's amazing what happens when you change the culture. That's what the coaching staff came in to do and asked for buy-in, and they got the leaders to buy in, and everyone else is falling in line. Ben Dupuy, trivia. What was the last SEC team LSU shut out? Mississippi State? Just off the top of my head. I think they shut out Mississippi State in the 07 opener. It was like 45-0 or something like that. But I don't remember off the top. Tyler Alexander, good morning. Do you think Harold Perkins has locked down a starting job? Hard to keep him off the field. Probably, well, Tyler, no, because it really depends on the opponent, right? Because, look, when there's games that, when they're playing more of like a base nickel, then you're just not going to have that third linebacker on the field. And so you're probably going to have Jones and Penn, and then, with Ojulari as the jack. But a game like last week where you're playing a team that was predominantly going to play in the box, you were going to have that third linebacker on the field, and Ojulari had the day off. So don't get me wrong, he's going to play a ton, but I don't think you're going to see him when you're in base nickel sets as one of the two linebackers out there. Kerry Moe, Auburn Hate Week, let's go. Quentin Breakbill, Bruce Parker, Matt, we're stuck with CBS next year as well. Yep, sure are. Chance Babin, LSU's probably Auburn's third or fourth biggest rival, yet there is mutual respect and hatred between them. Yeah, it's been earned on the field. It's been an awesome series. Brand Roban, you think LSU defense will be the best UT faces so far? Yeah, I do. And could that be enough? Maybe, because look, here's the reality also is that Tennessee's defense is not very good. So I think LSU will be able to move the ball. It's just the key is, can you get stops? I mean, you're not going to shut them down completely, but can you get stops, and can you hold them to threes instead of sixes? I mean, that's the key to that game. Randy Smith, Jaden Daniels continues to get better. Defense stays healthy. O-line gels. LSU has a great chance against Tennessee. Still can't spell citrus without UT. Michael Thacker, good morning. Does Mingo have a chance to finish his career or close the game close to the same level as Dorsey? Mingo? Mingo. Are you talking about Makai Wingo? No. If that no. Just drastically different players. No. Glenn Dorsey's the most decorated defensive player in the history of LSU football. Let's not get crazy. With Fouché back, is Jarek moving back to corner? I would imagine, Hunter. So for those that missed it, Jarek Bernard-Converse played some safety last week with Major Burns out, so that you saw Seven Banks move up to corner, and Colby Richardson on the other side, and Jarek played some safety. So, but yeah, I would imagine Jarek plays corner this week. Chance Babin, how long can DA ride with Jameis for his job security? It's a great question. Someone asked me, how long of a honeymoon period should Dennis Allen have? None. It's the NFL. You don't get a honeymoon. He inherited a talented roster. There's expectations. You got to win. I mean, I'm not mailing the season in because you're 1-2 through 3 games. But yeah, there's no honeymoon. There's no grace period. You got to win. Matt Lusso said, rattling off all the Auburn games. Sad to hear you mention the one near and dear to my heart, Flynn DeBerg. Not Matt, I was rattling off the road games. That's what you miss. The point was yesterday we were talking about when was the last time LSU might have been a double-digit or 9-point favorite at Auburn. So I rattled off all the road games. That's what I did. The Flynn DeBerg game was 07. You want me to do them all? Okay. Start with 94, interception game. 95, bring back the magic. 96 was the night the barn burned. 19-15, LSU wins. Rayon Hill on the pick 6 on the 2-point conversion. 1997, Damian Craig leads the comeback. Auburn wins. That was the Cecil Collins game. 98, LSU won 31-19 at Auburn. That was the double-digit win LSU had. Terry Bowden on his way out. 1999 was the cigar game in Baton Rouge. 2000, Nick's first year, Auburn won 34-17 on the Plains. 01, LSU won in Baton Rouge. That was the John Vaughn game where he fought with the band. 2002, LSU got kind of punked in a slow drizzle at Jordan-Hare. 2003, LSU dominant win in Tiger Stadium, national championship season. 04 was the leverage game, 10-9, Ronnie Prude. 05 in Baton Rouge was when, Damon Duval was the one who fought with the band. John Vaughn was the one who missed 5 field goals in 05. 06 was the 7-3 game, the Phantom PI. 07, Flynn DeBerg. 08 was Jarrett Lee to Brandon LaFell for the comeback. 09 in Baton Rouge was not very eventful. 10 in Auburn was the Cam Newton game when Auburn ran for 400 yards, best rushing performance against LSU, and most yards rushing allowed that an LSU defense ever allowed in a game. 11, LSU blew out Auburn in Baton Rouge. 12 was the 12-10 game. Auburn was terrible, and LSU was like number 2 in the country, and it was a miserable game in Jordan-Hare that day. 2013, let's see, that was 12 there. 13 here was uneventful. I mean, 13 was in the rain, and that was the game where LSU offensively, what happened? LSU got a big lead in that game. It was in the rain. Jeremy Hill popped off in the first, had like 100 yards rush in the first half. But Trey Mason got going in the second half, and if you remember, that was the only game Auburn lost all year on their way to the national championship game. That was the game where Trey Mason got going in the second half. 14 was Brandon Harris losing there. 15 was Fournette flipping dudes over his shoulder here. I don't think y'all need me to go through all these, but anyway, you get the point. What we went through yesterday was all of the road games. Okay. I got to go. Drew's backpack's beeping. I got to get him up, get him to school. So thank you all so much for watching. Appreciate it. Please smash the like button if you're on YouTube. Like the page, share the post. On Facebook, YouTube, please subscribe. As always, shout out to Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, HUDCO Roofing, HUDCOroofing.com. Appreciate y'all for being here. As always, LSU Daily is live, so please subscribe up to the podcast. Just go to your favorite podcast app, search LSU Daily. AFR at 3 and Scone and Tea tonight, 7 o'clock from Oliver Twist in Baton Rouge on Perkins Road. So we hope to see y'all there. All right, y'all have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.